Hiro Tanaka turned slowly, the blood still draining from his face as the card reader blinked, declined, in glaring red again. Are you serious right now? A man 2 people back muttered. Guy's wearing a watch that probably costs more than my car, but he can't pay for rice. A woman behind him chuckled with a sharp shake of her head. Must be one of those influencers faking being broke for clout. Pathetic. A teenager laughed and whispered just loud enough, dude looks like a Tokyo stockbroker. What? No Wi-Fi for your crypto wallet today? The laughter wasn't cruel, but it wasn't kind either. It was the kind that stings because it assumes everything about you, with no curiosity for the truth. Hiro remained still, staring at the register screen like it might change its mind. I said, the little girl repeated, louder this time, you can take my money. Gasps, snorts, a few chuckles. Oh, come on, someone said. Now a kid's bailing out Mr. Designer suit here. Hiro turned, finally getting a full look at the child. She was no taller than his hip, a black Asian girl with her hair braided in 2 neat plaits, her shoes scuffed from playground use. She held out a small bag of money, loose change and crumpled bills, like it was treasure. And maybe to her, it was. I can't take that, he said softly, shaken more by the crowd than the moment. That's yours. You should keep it, May. But you need it right now, she replied. And my mom says if someone's standing alone, you stand next to them. That's what good people do. Silence settled over the crowd, but only for a beat. Kids got more class than him, an old man snorted. Hiro forced a smile, eyes suddenly glassy. The cashier, a young woman with faded tattoos on her forearm, shifted uncomfortably, clearly unsure what to do next. Do you want me to cancel the order, sir? She asked. Hiro exhaled, shoulders sinking slightly. His pride ached. He should walk away, mumble an apology, maybe even flash his ID to reclaim some power. But something about the girl's gesture held him in place like an invisible anchor. What's your name? He asked gently. May, she said with a bright, fearless smile. Well, May, Hiro replied, crouching down slightly, that's the kindest thing anyone's done for me in a very long time. From behind them, a teenager chuckled. Bet this guy's got 5 Ferraris and not one working debit card. May turned, frowning. You shouldn't laugh at people when they're down. That's not brave. A few chuckles died away. From across the store, a voice called out, May, baby, where'd you run off to? A woman in worn blue scrubs hurried over, eyes widening at the scene. I hope she's not causing trouble, sir. No trouble at all, Hiro said. In fact, she just saved me from a whole lot of shame. The woman gave him a long, curious glance, then looked down at her daughter. What did you do, sweetie? I gave him my emergency money, May said matter-of-factly. His card didn't work, and no one helped him, so I did. The mother blinked, then looked at Hiro again. Well, that sounds like May. She gave a slow nod. You okay, sir? I am now, Hiro said. They began to walk away, but he found himself stepping forward. Wait. They paused. Would it be all right if I thanked you both properly? Maybe buy you lunch? The mother looked wary but not dismissive. We don't usually. No pressure, Hiro interrupted. I haven't been helped like that in a long time. Not without someone wanting something back. There was a long pause. Then the woman said, there's a place down the street. Kim's Diner. Good food, real cheap. Hiro nodded. I'll meet you there. As they walked away, the weight of the moment settled on his shoulders, not just the embarrassment, but the clarity. The silence in the grocery store was different now. Less mockery, more confusion. Hiro glanced once more at the card reader, declined. But something else had been accepted, something that had nothing to do with banks or credit scores. Outside, the Georgia sun beat down on the parking lot. Hiro blinked up into the blue sky, then climbed into his dusty Honda truck. He didn't drive off right away. He sat there, thinking about May, about the people who had laughed, and about a voice, young, fierce, and unwavering, cutting through the noise. You can take my money, mister. And in that sentence, he heard something else, you still matter, even if they don't know who you are. The smell of fried rice and steamed vegetables greeted Hiro Tanaka as he stepped through the screen door of a second-story apartment on Peach Blossom Lane. The stairs creaked under his shoes, and the hallway's paint had peeled in corners, exposing the age of the building, but there was something undeniably warm about the space. May had skipped up the steps ahead of him, her ponytail bouncing as she waved him on. Come on, it's not fancy, but it's home. Her mother, Lynn, walked behind him, a hand resting on the strap of her purse, visibly hesitant but willing. You sure you're okay with this, Mr. Hiro? Just Hiro, he said, offering a small smile. And yes, I appreciate the invitation. Lynn gave a slow nod. Well, just for a bit. I've got work at the hospital tonight. The apartment was small but tidy. A faded sofa, mismatched cushions, a round dining table with only 3 chairs. On the wall, a hand-drawn calendar with May's school schedule and Lynn's night shifts scribbled in purple marker. Hiro felt himself drawn back decades to cramped apartments, warm kitchens, and mothers trying to make ends meet. It had been a long time since he'd been in a home that felt this real. "Sit," May ordered, pointing to the couch. "Do you like jasmine tea? That's all we have." Hiro chuckled. "Love it." She darted into the kitchen. Lynn watched her daughter go, then turned back to Hiro. "You're not from around here." "No, ma'am. I grew up about 2 towns over. Been a while since I was back." "You just visiting?" He hesitated. "Something like that." Lynn studied him for a moment, then moved toward the kitchen herself. "May's a lot like her father was. Always wanted to help everybody, even when we didn't have much." "Is he gone?" 5 years now. Car accident on the way home from the ER. He was a nurse. Lynn pulled 2 glasses from the cupboard, paused, then added, "I'm used to doing things on my own." Hiro nodded, not out of politeness, but because he understood, more than she probably knew. May returned, arms barely holding the 2 glasses. "Tada," she beamed, setting one on the coffee table in front of Hiro. He took a sip. The jasmine tea was lukewarm and weak, but he smiled like it was a 5-star brew. "Best I've had all day." May sat beside him, eyes wide with curiosity. "You really don't have money?" Hiro laughed, nearly choking. "I have money. I just didn't have the right card today." She nodded seriously, like this made perfect sense. "It happens to mom sometimes, too. The bank gets confused." Lynn returned from the kitchen, drying her hands. "May, go grab your homework. You've got spelling tonight." "Do I have to?" Lynn raised an eyebrow. That was enough. With a groan, May trudged off to her room, mumbling something about words that don't sound like how they're spelled. Hiro looked after her, then turned back to Lynn. "You've raised a good kid." "Thank you. She's a handful sometimes, but she's got a good heart. I just worry the world won't always be kind to it." Hiro leaned back, considering her words. "Yeah, the world tends to get meaner when it sees someone kind." Lynn eyed him again, more openly this time. "So, what's your story, Hiro? You don't look like a guy who loses sleep over a declined card, designer shoes, polished watch, voice like you've given TED Talks." He smiled faintly. "Used to work in tech. Built a few things, sold a few more. Got tired of hearing my own name in headlines, so I disappeared for a bit, trying to remember who I was before all of it." "You running from something?" she asked without judgment. "Not running," he said, his voice quieter. "Just trying to breathe without being someone." They sat in silence for a few seconds. Then Lynn said, "Well, you found the right town for that. Dawsonville doesn't care who you used to be. It cares who you are when someone needs help moving a couch or fixing a roof." Hiro chuckled. "Sounds like a fair trade." Lynn checked her watch. "I've got to leave soon. Night shift at St. Jerome's. Can I drive you?" "You don't have to do that." "I want to." She looked like she wanted to argue, but then softened. "All right. Thank you." They stood, and as Lynn grabbed her coat, May emerged from her room holding a sheet of paper. "Mom, can Hiro help me with spelling?" Lynn looked at Hiro, amused. He knelt down. "I'll give it a shot." May grinned. "Spell serendipity." Hiro blinked. "You sure this is 2nd grade?" She giggled. "I like big words." "All right," he said. "Serendipity." She looked at the paper, then at him. "Wow, you're good." Lynn laughed from the doorway. "You two play nice. I'll be back by morning." As Hiro watched her leave, he felt something shift. It wasn't dramatic, no grand epiphany, no music swelling in the background, just a subtle crack in the concrete wall he'd built around himself. He turned back to May, who was now setting up her homework at the table. "Do you want to stay for dinner tomorrow?" she asked without looking up. "We're having ramen." Hiro hesitated, the familiar reflex to retreat rising, but he swallowed it. "I'd like that," he said, and he meant it. By sunrise the next morning, the video had spread faster than wildfire. Hiro Tanaka, former tech magnate and media-dubbed Ghost Billionaire, was now the face of one of the internet's newest comedy trends, the rich guy who couldn't pay for groceries. He hadn't even known the clip existed until he opened his phone over cold dumplings and black coffee at the diner across from the auto repair shop. The waitress raised her brow when she saw him seated alone in the corner booth, whispering something to the cook behind the pass. Then came the lingering glances from 2 teenage boys scrolling on their phones a few tables down. "Yo, isn't that the guy?" one of them said, not even trying to whisper. Hiro didn't flinch. He already knew what they were seeing, a grainy video taken by some bored customer at Dawsonville Grocery. His frozen expression, the declined message flashing, the way he looked around, and then, humiliatingly, how a little black Asian girl handed him a bag of money like he was a stray dog in need of feeding. The caption read, "When your billions don't work at checkout. #Billionaire Blues." Another version edited the footage into a clip of virtual coins raining down with circus music in the background. He'd been famous before, not adored, not even admired, just visible. But this was ridicule in its purest form, stripped of his last thread of anonymity, mocked for daring to walk into a store as a man instead of a brand. Hero closed the browser, paid the check in cash, and left a generous tip. As he stepped outside, the Georgia heat was already clinging to the pavement, thick and humid. He shoved his hands into his pockets, feeling a bitter pulse of shame start to crawl up again until he heard a small voice call out, "Hey, Hero. May." She stood across the street in a powder blue backpack, waving as she trotted toward him with an oversized book swinging in her arm. Lynn followed at a slower pace, her expression unreadable. "You left your sunglasses yesterday," May said, holding them out. Hero took them gently. "Thanks, May. You saved my eyesight. I saw your face on Mom's phone this morning," she added brightly. "You're famous now." Lynn winced slightly but said nothing. Hero knelt beside her. "Sometimes being famous just means more people laugh when you fall." May wrinkled her nose. "That's dumb. You didn't fall. You just had a money hiccup." Hero chuckled. "You make it sound less tragic." It wasn't tragic. It was just real. There it was again, that strange steadiness in her, like she hadn't yet been taught to be embarrassed by honesty. Or maybe she had and decided not to care. "People are going to keep talking," Lynn said finally. "Even around here, small town like this, folks don't forget when something goes viral." "I figured," Hero said. "This isn't the first time I've been the punchline." "But now you're the punchline in their backyard," Lynn added. "It's different when they think they own the story." They began walking down the street toward May's school, passing the corner gas station where an old man paused, filling his tank to give Hero a long, amused stare. "Hey, card working today?" he called out with a grin. Hero gave a polite nod. "Hope so. You might want to check your GoFundMe," the man said, chuckling. "I hear the internet's got jokes." Hero kept walking. May skipped ahead, humming to herself, seemingly unaware of the heat surrounding her unlikely friend. Lynn glanced sideways. "You sure you're up for this? Dawsonville's kind, but it's also nosy." "I've been humiliated in front of millions before," Hero replied. "But somehow this feels worse because it's personal now." She nodded. "Because it's face to face." They stopped in front of the school gate. Children flooded the playground. May turned and gave Hero a fierce hug around the waist. "Don't let the laughing people make you sad." "I'll try," he said, his throat tighter than he expected. Lynn gave a half smile. "Come by for ramen tonight if you're still brave." "I'll bring garlic bread," Hero said as May disappeared into the school building. Hero turned and headed back toward his truck. He didn't start it right away. He just sat there, watching the town wake up. In the distance, he saw two young men pointing at him from a hardware store parking lot. One of them mimed swiping a credit card and laughed. Hero's hands clenched on the steering wheel. He could leave, just get back on the highway, disappear again. There were hundreds of small towns like this, and none of them would care what happened in Dawsonville. But something about May's voice, her courage, made him stay. Instead of driving off, he headed to the local hardware store. He needed some tools, literal ones, and maybe something else. Inside, the cashier looked up with wide eyes. "Didn't expect you here," he said. "You need cash, right?" Hero met his gaze. "I need a shovel, 2 bags of mulch, and some paint. I'm fixing the playground behind the community center." The man raised an eyebrow. "Out of the kindness of your heart?" "No," Hero replied. "Because a little girl gave me $10 and reminded me what being human looks like." The man didn't speak again as he rang him up. By late afternoon, Hero was knee-deep in weeds behind the long-forgotten community center. Sweat dripped from his hairline. His shirt clung to him like regret, but with every patch of dead grass pulled up, every loose board tightened, he felt something shift, something steady, quiet. The laughter still echoed in corners of his mind, but now there was May's voice layered on top of it. "You didn't fall. You just had a money hiccup. Maybe dignity wasn't about how people saw you. Maybe it was about what you did next when they stopped looking." The knock at the door came just after sunset. Lynn, still in her scrubs, was elbow-deep in soapy water, cleaning dishes from the night's ramen dinner. May was sprawled on the living room rug, coloring with 3 broken crayons and a sheet of printer paper. "Can you get that, baby?" Lynn called out, wiping her hands on a dish towel. May opened the door and grinned. "Hero." He stood on the threshold, holding a large brown paper bag sagging slightly at the bottom. "I brought dessert," he said, lifting the bag. "Red bean mochi and something that claims to be mango pudding, though I wouldn't stake my name on it." Lin appeared from the kitchen, visibly tired but with a soft smile. You didn't have to do that. I wanted to, Hiro replied. Besides, I owed you both a meal not cooked in a microwave. They sat down together at the table, the plates still warm from dinner. Hiro scooped out generous helpings while Mei bounced in her seat. Mom, tell him about the old lady with the lotus root hair, she blurted. Lin rolled her eyes with a chuckle. Patient at the hospital today. She put sliced lotus root in her hair to cleanse her chi, said it keeps her connected to her ancestors. Hiro laughed. I might have to try that next time I'm in need of enlightenment. Mei giggled, mouth full of mochi. You don't have enough hair. As they ate, the mood felt unusually light, familiar. Hiro couldn't remember the last time a room felt this safe without security at the door or assistants checking their watches. Later, as Mei got ready for bed, Lin stepped out onto the small balcony with Hiro, both holding paper cups of lukewarm tea. You know, I still don't really know who you are, she said, gazing out at the quiet street below. I told you, Hiro, he said with a smirk. You know what I mean. He hesitated. I used to think my name was everything. That if people said it enough times, I mattered more. Lin glanced at him. And now? Now I'm wondering if maybe the only thing that matters is what you do when no one's saying your name at all. A silence settled between them, not awkward, but full. Hiro reached into his pocket and pulled out a small envelope. I left this on your kitchen counter, he said. It's not much. Just a little something for Mei's school stuff, books, lunches, whatever she needs. Lin didn't take it right away. I don't want your guilt money, Hiro. It's not guilt, he said softly. It's gratitude. She studied him for a long moment before finally accepting it. You don't need to fix anything. You just need to be honest. He nodded. Inside, Mei was humming to herself as she placed her crayons into a worn shoebox. Mom, can I give Hiro something? Lin peeked in. What do you want to give him, baby? Mei reached into her backpack and pulled out a tiny object wrapped in tissue. She held it out to Hiro. He unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a small hand-painted stone, purple with little stars and crooked letters that spelled, Be the Helper. I made it in art class, Mei said shyly. You can keep it in your pocket so you remember to help, even when you're sad. Hiro swallowed hard. I'll carry it everywhere. That night, after they said goodbye, Hiro walked back to his truck parked down the block. He sat in the driver's seat and unwrapped the stone again, holding it in his palm. Something about it made his chest ache. He thought of all the years he'd spent acquiring things, real estate, stocks, accolades, and how none of them had ever made him feel the seen. Back at the motel, he placed the stone on the nightstand. It looked oddly holy there, resting beside his watch and key fob. Early the next morning, Hiro drove to the Dawsonville Community Center again. He brought lumber this time and paint in bright colors, sky blue, sunflower yellow, and the kind of red that reminded him of childhood fire engines. By noon, he had patched up the swing set, sanded down the broken seesaw, and scrubbed years of grime from the monkey bars. He worked with his shirt soaked through, a baseball cap low on his brow, humming songs he didn't remember knowing. People walked by, some with recognition, others with wary glances. A few muttered, "Ain't that the guy from that video?" But no one stopped to talk. A boy around 10 came near the fence. "Are you fixing that place?" "I am," Hiro replied. The boy nodded. "That's cool. My sister broke her tooth on that slide last year. Then I better reinforce the bolts." The boy smiled. "My name's Kai. Nice to meet you, Kai." As the boy walked away, Hiro realized he hadn't once mentioned his own name. Later that afternoon, he taped a note to the door of the community center. "If you've got tools or time, lend it. If you've got nothing but heart, bring that, too." No signature. He watched the paper flutter in the breeze and, for once, felt okay being anonymous. Back at Lin's that evening, Mei ran to meet him before he reached the stairs. "You smell like outside," she said, nose wrinkled in mock horror. "That's because I rebuilt half a playground," he said. "Come see tomorrow." "Really?" "Only if Mom lets me skip homework." Lin appeared at the doorway, arms crossed. "Not a chance." Hiro smiled. "Worth a shot." As the sun dipped low, casting gold across the brick buildings, he sat on the stoop beside Mei. The tiny purple stone tucked safely in his pocket. He didn't say much, but he didn't need to. Sometimes being seen isn't about flashing lights or headlines. Sometimes it's a crayon-colored stone and a dinner table with mismatched chairs. The bell above the door of Kim's Coffee and Books chimed softly as Hiro stepped inside. The scent of roasted beans and old paper drifted through the air like a memory. It was the kind of place that had aged with its town: mismatched chairs, a long oak counter, handwritten signs for pastries, and a wall of community notices tacked over a faded quilt. A ceiling fan rotated lazily above, more for show than utility. He ordered a plain black coffee, turned down the pastry offer, and chose a corner seat with a view of the street. He liked sitting by windows now. Liked watching people pass without knowing who he was or what he'd done. It grounded him. Made the world feel a little quieter. But peace has a way of running short when your face has been seen by 10 million strangers. "Excuse me," a voice said. "Are you Hiro Tanaka?" Hiro looked up slowly. The woman standing before him wore a dark green blazer, a notebook tucked under her arm. Her eyes were sharp, not unkind, but trained, like someone who made a living observing what others missed. He gave her a measured look. "Depends on who's asking." "Jia Chen. I'm a journalist, independent, mostly human stories. I'm working on a piece about you." "There's nothing to write," Hiro replied, taking a slow sip from his cup. "Oh, I think there is," Jia said, pulling out the chair across from him without waiting for an invitation. The billionaire who vanished, then reappears in a Georgia town where he gets publicly humiliated at checkout and then starts fixing playgrounds with his own hands. That's not just news. That's narrative. I didn't authorize a narrative. You can't really control stories once they leave your hands, she said. You, of all people, should know that. Hiro studied her, then glanced toward the counter. Kim, the elderly owner, was pretending to wipe the same mug she'd been wiping for 10 minutes, clearly eavesdropping. "I'm not interested in publicity," Hiro said flatly. "And I don't need a redemption arc written by someone who doesn't know me." Jia leaned forward. "I'm not trying to save your image. I'm trying to understand your truth. Why now? Why disappear for 3 years, then come back without the empire, without the suits, without the money, at least not where it counts?" Hiro set down his cup, his voice calm but steel-lined. "I came here to find something I lost. That's all. And I didn't ask anyone to film me or mock me or write about me." "True," she said. "But when you walked into that grocery store in tailored shoes and an expired debit card, you walked into a mirror. People saw themselves, broken, trying to look fine, and they laughed because it was easier than crying. That stung." He didn't show it. "I met a little girl named May," Jia continued. "She told her teacher you're her friend, that you're fixing her park." Hiro's eyes narrowed slightly. "You spoke to her?" "I'm thorough," she said, then softened. "She said you carry a purple rock in your pocket. Says it helps you remember to be good." He didn't respond. Jia sat back, her tone less aggressive. "Let me tell the story your way. No angles, no headlines, just the truth." Hiro stared down at his coffee. The silence stretched long enough that Jia stood gently, pushing a business card across the table. "If you change your mind, call me. I'm here all week." She left without another word. Hiro stared at the card. Her handwriting on the back read, "The ones who fall quietly are the ones we need to hear most." Outside, the sky had dimmed. He left a few bills on the table, nodded goodbye to Kim, and stepped out into the street. He didn't go home. Instead, he drove to the edge of town, to the cemetery on the hill. He'd passed it before but never stopped. Tonight, he did. The gravel crunched beneath his boots as he walked rows of headstones, reading names he didn't know. There was a small plot of children's graves, angels and teddy bears carved into marble. He paused, then sat on a bench beneath an old elm tree. For the first time in years, Hiro let his mind drift back to the boardrooms, to the press junkets, to the day the markets turned and his name was dragged through fire. Back to the partner who betrayed him, the investors who turned their backs, the headlines that didn't ask for facts. The silence after the crash, thick, total. And then to May, to her hand outstretched. Early the next morning, Hiro drove to the Dawsonville Community Center again. He brought lumber and paint in bright colors, sky blue, sunflower yellow, and the kind of red that reminded him of childhood kites. By noon, he had patched up the swing set, sanded down the broken seesaw, and scrubbed years of grime from the monkey bars. He worked with his shirt soaked through, a baseball cap low on his brow, humming songs he didn't remember knowing. People walked by, some with recognition, others with wary glances. A few muttered, "Ain't that the guy from that video?" But no one stopped to talk. A boy around 10 came near the fence. "Are you fixing that place?" "I am," Hiro replied. The boy nodded. "That's cool. My sister broke her tooth on that slide last year. Then I better reinforce the bolts." The boy smiled. "My name's Wei." "Nice to meet you, Wei." As the boy walked away, Hiro realized he hadn't mentioned his own name. Later that afternoon, he taped a note to the door of the community center: "If you've got tools or time, lend it. If you've got nothing but heart, bring that, too." No signature. He watched the paper flutter in the breeze and felt okay being anonymous. Back at Lynn's that evening, May ran to meet him before he reached the stairs. "You smell like outside," she said, nose wrinkled in mock horror. "That's because I rebuilt half a playground," he said. "Come see tomorrow." "Really?" Only if Mom lets me skip homework. Lin appeared at the doorway, arms crossed. Not a chance. Hiro smiled. Worth a shot. As the sun dipped low, casting gold across the brick buildings, he sat on the stoop beside Mei. The tiny purple stone tucked safely in his pocket. He didn't say much, but he didn't need to. Sometimes being seen isn't about flashing lights or headlines. Sometimes it's a crayon-colored stone and a dinner table with mismatched chairs. The bell above the door of Kim's Coffee and Books chimed softly as Hiro stepped inside. The scent of roasted beans and old paper drifted through the air like a memory. It was the kind of place that had aged with its town: mismatched chairs, a long oak counter, handwritten signs for pastries, and a wall of community notices tacked over a faded quilt. He ordered a plain black coffee, turned down the pastry offer, and chose a corner seat with a view of the street. He liked sitting by windows now, watching people pass without knowing who he was. It grounded him. But peace is fleeting when your face has been seen by 10 million strangers. "Excuse me," a voice said. "Are you Hiro Tanaka?" Hiro looked up. The woman before him wore a dark green blazer, a notebook under her arm. Her eyes were sharp, not unkind, but observant. "Depends on who's asking." Jia Chen. "Journalist, independent, mostly human stories. I'm working on a piece about you." "There's nothing to write," Hiro said, sipping his coffee. "I think there is," Jia said, pulling out a chair without invitation. The billionaire who vanished, then reappears in a Georgia town, humiliated at checkout, fixing playgrounds with his own hands. That's not just news. That's narrative. I didn't authorize a narrative. You can't control stories once they leave your hands, she said. You should know that. Hiro glanced at Kim, the elderly owner, pretending to wipe the same mug for 10 minutes, eavesdropping. I'm not interested in publicity, he said. I don't need a redemption arc from someone who doesn't know me. Jia leaned forward. I'm not here to save your image. I want your truth. Why now? Why disappear for 3 years, then come back without the empire, the suits, the money, at least where it counts? I came here to find something I lost, Hiro said, his voice steady but edged. I didn't ask to be filmed, mocked, or written about. True, Jia said. But when you walked into that store in tailored shoes with an expired card, you held up a mirror. People saw themselves, broken, trying to look fine, and laughed because it's easier than crying. That stung. He didn't show it. I met a little girl named Mei, Jia continued. She told her teacher you're her friend, fixing her park. You spoke to her? Hiro's eyes narrowed. I'm thorough, Jia said, softening. She said you carry a purple rock in your pocket to remember to be good. He didn't respond. Jia sat back. Let me tell the story your way. No angles, just truth. Hiro stared at his coffee. The silence stretched until Jia stood, pushing a business card across the table. If you change your mind, call me. I'm here all week. She left. Hiro stared at the card. Her handwriting read, the ones who fall quietly are the ones we need to hear most. He left a few bills, nodded to Kim, and stepped into the dimming street. He didn't go home. Instead, he drove to the cemetery on the hill. The gravel crunched under his boots as he walked past headstones, pausing at a small plot of children's graves, angels and teddy bears in marble. He sat on a bench beneath an old elm tree, thinking of boardrooms, press junkets, the day the markets crashed, his name dragged through fire. The partner who betrayed him, the investors who turned away, the headlines that didn't ask for facts. The silence after, thick, total. And then Mei, her hand outstretched, offering the purple stone. A noise broke the stillness. Wei, the boy from the playground, stood near the path, holding a flashlight. My grandma's buried here, he said. She used to sit on that bench, too. Hiro nodded. It's a good bench. You okay? Wei looked at him, raw honesty in his eyes. Yeah, just thinking. My grandma used to say thinking too much makes you sad if you're not careful, Wei said. Hiro smiled. She sounds wise. She was. She made dumplings that tasted like hugs. They sat quietly for a moment. Then Wei asked, why are people mean online? Because it's easier to throw stones when no one knows your name, Hiro answered. Wei nodded solemnly. But you're fixing stuff. That's cool. Trying to. You said your lunch lady quit, right? Food's bad now. Yeah, Wei said. It's gross. Hiro chuckled. I'll see what I can do. They walked back to the road, flashlights cutting across the grass. Hiro's mind was full but not heavy. The next morning, he called Jia Chen, not to give her the whole story, just to invite her to the playground's relaunch. If you want the truth, he told her, you'll have to get your hands dirty, too. The morning of the relaunch began with the smell of red bean buns and wet earth. Hiro arrived early, the sky blushing pale orange, mist clinging low to the grass. He unloaded a folding table, juice boxes, coolers of sandwiches, and a portable speaker playing soft jazz. It wasn't much, but Dawsonville taught him people came for effort, not glitz. He ran his hand across the new bench by the swing set, smooth, solid, honest, like something you could trust at your back. By 8:15, families trickled in, moms in denim skirts, dads in ball caps, kids in neon shoes. May was first to the monkey bars, climbing like a squirrel, her laugh carrying across the yard. Lynn followed slowly, thermos in hand, her expression tired but warm. Hero waved. Lynn nodded, the kind that said, "You did good." The crowd grew, parents, kids, older couples, teens, even the cashier from Dawsonville Grocery, who gave Hero an awkward smile and handed him a sesame seed cake. At 9 o'clock, Jia arrived in sneakers, jeans, and a ponytail, scribbling in her notebook. "You really did it," she said. Hero handed her a sandwich. "I said I'd get my hands dirty." She pointed toward the tree lean. "Someone else is watching." Hero followed her gaze. A man in a dark suit stood beyond the new fence, out of place among the small-town attire. Sunglasses, poised, controlled. Hero's gut tightened. "Who is he?" Jia asked. "Someone from the past," Hero muttered. The man didn't approach, just watched, then left without a word. Hero pushed the thought away. May was waving him over, pointing at a new slide painted fire engine red. "Mr. Hero, come test it." "I'm not sure I meet the weight limit," he said. "Come on, it's your slide now." Laughter broke out. Even Lynn cracked a grin. Hero relented, climbed the ladder, and slid down with a whoop that surprised himself. The applause, half joking, half genuine, caught him off guard. "Looks safe," someone shouted. By mid-morning, kids played tag under the trees, grandparents sipped jasmine tea, and a mural painted by local teens with Hero supplies gleamed on the community building. It read, "Be the helper," with a small purple stone beneath the words. Hero stared, unsure who had painted it. "You've started something," Jia said beside him. "Whether you meant to or not." "I didn't start it," Hero replied. "May did." Jia closed her notebook. "You think you're the background in this story?" "No," he said. "I'm just now learning how to be in it." A scuffle near the gate pulled their attention. A lanky, anxious teenage boy, maybe 16, argued with another, voices raised, fists balled. "Hey," Hero called, jogging over. The taller boy shouted, "He tagged me hard on purpose." "I did not," the other said, eyes glassy. "You pushed me first." Hero stepped between them. "That's enough, both of you." They huffed, angry but embarrassed. "What's your name?" he asked the taller one. "Jean." Hero pointed at the mural. "See that stone? May gave me the real one because I needed help and no one else would. I carry it so I don't forget, being strong isn't about hitting first. It's about knowing when to stop." Jean looked away, ashamed. "You two shake hands," Hero said. "Then grab a juice box and cool off." Reluctantly, they did. Jia scribbled something. "What now?" Hero asked. "Truth," she said simply. Later, the crowd thinned. The juice was gone, sandwiches devoured, kids sticky from machi someone's aunt brought. May hugged Hero around the waist. "Best park ever," she whispered. Lynn approached with a tired smile. "You okay?" she asked. "Better than I've been in years." "You sure that man in the suit didn't spook you?" "I'm sure," Hero said. "The past doesn't get to own me anymore." That night, after cleanup, Hero sat alone on the new bench. The mural gleamed in the moonlight. He pulled out the purple stone, turning it in his fingers. He thought of Jean, May, the man at the fence, and himself, once too afraid to be seen and less celebrated. He looked at the stars. They didn't care who he used to be, only what he chose to be next. The man in the suit returned 3 days later. It was just past noon when Hero stepped out of Kim's Coffee and Books with his usual black coffee, greeted by the same creaky bell and scent of roasted beans. Dawsonville's summer air hung thick with heat, and Hero planned to head to the community center to meet a carpenter volunteering to repair the old gazebo. He never made it to his truck. "Mr. Tanaka," a voice called, low, clipped, practiced. The same man from the playground stood beside a polished black car parked across the street. Arms folded, sunglasses off, his hair slicked back, suit crisp, tie loosened just enough to feign casual. The gleam in his eyes said business, not familiarity. Hero froze. "Kenji Mori." The man smiled faintly. "Glad you remember me." Hero didn't smile back. "Hard to forget the guy who handed me my last exit papers." Kenji extended a business card. Hero didn't take it. "I'm not here to rehash the past," Kenji said. "I'm here with an opportunity." "I've had enough of those," Hero replied, stepping aside. Kenji followed. "You disappeared. No press, no explanation. Just walked away from a company you built. Left your shares on the table. Everyone thought you lost your mind. I gained peace. You could have cleared your name, Kenji pressed. You still can. I don't need the world's apology, Hiro said. I just needed to stop pretending it mattered. But it does matter, Kenji snapped, his mask slipping. You're trending again, Hiro. The grocery store, the kid, the playground. People are watching. You could use this, turn it into something. A rebrand, a comeback. Hiro turned slowly to face him. I'm not a product, Kenji. Not a brand, not your golden goose. Kenji lowered his voice. You're wasting yourself here. Fixing swings, sharing jasmine tea with school kids. You were a leader. You changed industries. I also crushed people under deadlines and ignored my mother's last voicemail because I was closing a deal. That landed hard. Kenji's jaw tightened. Hiro added, this town doesn't want another tech king. They want someone who listens when the roof leaks. Someone who shows up when the lights go out. Kenji looked around the sleepy street like it personally offended him. You think this is your redemption story? He scoffed. This place is a dead end. No, Hiro said calmly. It's a new beginning. There was a beat of silence. Then Kenji shoved the card into Hiro's pocket and walked away, muttering, the door's open. You won't like it when it closes. Hiro stood still, the coffee in his hand now lukewarm. He stared across the street toward the mural near the community center. Be the helper. The words glowed in the afternoon sun like they were waiting to remind him. Later that evening at Lin's apartment, Hiro sat at the dinner table while Mei showed off a picture she'd drawn, a stick figure of him planting flowers, with a speech bubble that said, let's build hope. You've turned into a cartoon, Lin teased. Could have been worse, Hiro said. She could have drawn me as a goat again. Mei giggled. Goats are funny. As they ate, Hiro glanced toward the window. The world outside looked small, close, safe. Yet his mind buzzed with the weight of Kenji's words. Lin noticed. You're quiet tonight. Just thinking, Hiro said. She set her fork down. You going to tell me what's really on your mind, or are we playing this mystery millionaire game forever? He sighed. A man I used to work with showed up today. Wants me to come back, clean my name, reclaim everything I walked away from. Lin didn't react immediately. She wiped her mouth, then asked, do you want that? I don't know, he admitted. I thought I left for good reasons, but now it feels like the past is trying to pull me back. Maybe I haven't changed as much as I think. You have, she said simply. How do you know? Because the hero who showed up broke and embarrassed in a grocery store didn't run. He stayed. And the one sitting here eating ramen with a single mom and her loudmouth kid? He's not the man in those headlines. Hiro swallowed. And if I leave? What if I go back to that life? Lin shrugged. That's your call. But Mei sees you as more than a man who lost a credit card. She sees you as someone who showed up when no one else did. That doesn't disappear just because you sign a new contract. Mei chimed in, mouth full. You can't fix stuff if you're always flying in jets. Hiro chuckled. Is that in the Bible? It's in my brain, she said proudly. That night, after dishes were done and Mei was tucked in, Hiro stood at the window, staring into the dark street. He pulled Kenji's business card from his pocket and held it over the flame of a candle Lin had left burning on the counter. The edges curled slowly, then the whole thing caught fire. Hiro dropped it into the sink and watched it burn to ash. He didn't need another empire. He needed purpose, and he'd found it here in Dawsonville, in playgrounds and purple rocks, in second chances not televised but lived. By the end of the week, Dawsonville was buzzing again, though not with laughter this time. Something was shifting, an invisible hum beneath the quiet streets and coffee shop chatter. Hiro felt it before he heard it, the way people paused mid-conversation when he walked by, the way Kim's smile faltered when she handed him his cup. Even Lin seemed more guarded, as though expecting a storm. It started with a headline, not screaming across tabloids but quieter, more insidious. A tech industry blog, known for rumor over fact, published a piece titled The Billionaire in Hiding, What's Hiro Tanaka Really Up To in Small-Town Georgia? It was filled with speculation, anonymous sources, hints that Hiro's playground efforts were a cover for something shady, that his humble comeback was just a PR stunt in disguise. By Monday, the local paper picked it up, then a talk radio segment, then a YouTube channel run by a guy in a basement wearing sunglasses indoors. People started looking at Hiro differently. The playground mural was defaced Tuesday night. Someone spray-painted over Be the Helper with a crude $sign and the words Fake Savior. When Hiro saw it the next morning, he stood still for a long time, the sun rising behind him. Jiachin arrived moments later, breathless. I heard, she said. I came as soon as I saw the photo online. Hiro didn't say anything. He stared at the red paint bleeding down the wall like a wound. I know it wasn't you, Jia said gently. Anyone who's been here the last few weeks knows that. But not everyone has been here, Hiro replied quietly. And the ones watching online believe what entertains them, not what's true. Lin joined them, arms crossed, face hard. Cowards. Couldn't even say it to your face. People get scared when their illusions are threatened, Jia said, especially the illusion that rich men can't change. Mei ran up, stopping short when she saw the mural. Her face dropped. Who did that? Hiro knelt beside her. Someone who's confused. Mei frowned. But you're a helper. He smiled faintly. That doesn't mean everyone sees it that way. Well, I do, she said fiercely. And so do my friends. She turned on her heel and marched toward the school, head high. That afternoon, Hiro borrowed supplies from the community center, paint, brushes, ladders, and stood in front of the mural, ready to fix what had been broken. But he didn't paint over it himself. Instead, he invited others. Locals showed up, teens with art kits, parents with toddlers, retired veterans with weathered hands. Even Wei, the boy from the playground, brought a small tray of watercolors. Together, they repainted the mural, not just restoring but expanding it. Around the original words, they added bright flowers, stars, small handprints in every color. They painted a bridge over the purple stone and stick figures holding hands beneath it. Above it all, they added new text in bold white letters, "Truth always outlives the noise." Hiro stood back, hands splattered with paint, heart heavier than usual. Jia approached quietly. You should talk to the town. Say something official. Clear the air. I've spent most of my life saying the right things, Hiro said. Maybe what I do here is louder. She looked at him for a moment, then nodded. I'll write that down. That evening, as dusk settled, Hiro sat on the porch at Lin's apartment, drinking iced jasmine tea and watching fireflies spark over the lawn. Lin came out, joining him. Town's standing behind you, she said. You know that, right? I know some are. Others are still watching, waiting for me to crack. She sipped her tea. Let them. We all crack eventually, but that's not the same as breaking. He looked at her, something soft in his expression. You believe in me? I believe in what I've seen, Hiro. Not what I've read. Not what's whispered. He nodded. That's rare these days. They sat in silence, the kind that comes when words are spent and understanding settles in their place. Later that night, Hiro walked to the park alone. The mural gleamed under the moonlight, untouched now, protected by invisible walls of community care. He sat on the bench, pulled the purple stone from his pocket, and held it in his hand. Something was coming. He could feel it. The defacement wasn't the end, it was the beginning of a storm he couldn't see clearly yet. But he wasn't the man who ran anymore. He was the one who stayed, who showed up, who helped, even when it meant standing alone in the noise. The sun rose early over Dawsonville, painting its old courthouse and sprawling pine-topped hills in dusty gold. Hiro stepped out of his truck and inhaled the crisp mountain air, a reminder that this town was more than a backdrop. It was alive in the quiet hum of daily routines, the creak of front porches, the scent of pine and fresh red bean buns wafting through the air. He'd spent the night in restless thought, decisions turning over like gears in a machine. The defacement of the mural had stung, but it revealed something deeper: fear, suspicion, resistance to change. Hiro knew Dawsonville was small, just over 4,000 residents, a mountain community with deep roots in moonshine lore, NASCAR heritage, and self-reliance. It didn't grow by leaps, it simmered quietly until it spilled over. As he walked toward the community center, he passed familiar faces, Mrs. Sato tending her azaleas, Mr. Park loading bags of feed into his truck, the Lions Club banner flapping near City Hall. They nodded politely, curiosity and concern in their eyes. This was the same town that called itself the Moonshine Capital, where outsiders were met cautiously and change with gentle suspicion. Inside the center, volunteers gathered. Lilies on the benches, fresh from the farmer's market, displayed with modest pride. Hiro greeted them with coffee, warm smiles, wordless gratitude. The chatter softened when the mural came up, whispers of what had been said online. At 9 a.m., Mayor Wei Chen, sworn in months before, entered the hall with town council members and elders. For a brief moment, Hiro feared he'd be told to keep his good deeds quiet, out of sight. But the mayor raised a hand. This community needs to speak its own truth, he said, voice steady. We stand behind those who build, not tear down. A quiet ripple of applause spread through the room. Hiro's heart fluttered, not from praise, but because this wasn't about him. It was about the town defending unity, kindness, the slow justice of shared action. Jia slipped in beside him, pen paused mid-scratch, then let it fall to her notebook. He gave her a faint smile, no words needed. The door opened as the high school art teacher entered with a handful of students, their paint-stained fingers and shy smiles proof of hard work. They unfurled a new mural design poster filled with local scenes, a Michelola Falls tumbling down forested cliffs, old racing silhouettes along Thunder Road, children under a rainbow reaching toward Be the Helper. Truth outlives noise. The youth spoke quietly but with force, explaining how they wanted to show Dawsonville's true face. The playground mural was defaced Tuesday night. Someone spray-painted over Be the Helper with a crude dollar sign and the words Fake Savior. When Hiro saw it the next morning, he stood still for a long time, the sun rising behind him. Jia-chan arrived moments later, breathless. I heard, she said. I came as soon as I saw the photo online. Hiro didn't speak. He stared at the red paint bleeding down the wall like a wound. I know it wasn't you, Jia said gently. Anyone who's been here the last few weeks knows that. But not everyone has been here, Hiro replied quietly. And the ones online believe what entertains them, not what's true. Lin joined them, arms crossed, face hard. Cowards. Couldn't say it to your face. People get scared when their illusions are threatened, Jia said, especially the illusion that rich men can't change. Mei ran up, stopping short when she saw the mural. Her face dropped. Who did that? Hiro knelt beside her. Someone who's confused. Mei frowned. But you're a helper. He smiled faintly. Not everyone sees it that way. Well, I do, she said fiercely. And so do my friends. She turned and marched toward the school, head high. That afternoon, Hiro borrowed supplies from the community center, paint, brushes, ladders, and stood before the mural, ready to fix what was broken. But he didn't paint alone. Locals showed up, teens with art kits, parents with toddlers, retired veterans with weathered hands. Wei, the boy from the playground, brought a tray of watercolors. Together, they expanded the mural, adding bright flowers, stars, and handprints in every color. They painted a bridge over the purple stone, stick figures holding hands beneath it, and bold white letters above, truth always outlives the noise. Hiro stood back, paint splattered, heart heavy but satisfied. Jia approached. You should talk to the town. Clear the air. I've spent my life saying the right things, Hiro said. Maybe what I do here is louder. She nodded. I'll write that down. That evening, Hiro sat on the porch at Lin's apartment, drinking iced jasmine tea, watching fireflies spark over the lawn. Lin joined him. Town's standing behind you, she said. You know that, right? Some are. Others are waiting for me to crack. Let them. We all crack, but that's not breaking. He looked at her, something soft in his expression. You believe in me? I believe in what I've seen, Hiro. Not what's online or whispered. He nodded. That's rare. They sat in silence, words spent, understanding settling in. Later, Hiro walked to the park alone. The mural gleamed under the moonlight, protected by the community's care. He sat on the bench, holding the purple stone. Something was coming, a storm he couldn't yet see. But he wasn't the man who ran anymore. He stayed, helped, even when it meant standing alone in the noise. Dawn rose over Dawsonville, painting the courthouse and pine-topped hills in dusty gold. Hiro stepped out of his truck, inhaling the crisp mountain air mixed with the scent of pine and fresh mochi from a nearby bakery. The town was alive in its quiet routines, creaking porches, the hum of daily life. He'd spent the night in restless thought, decisions turning like gears. The mural's defacement stung, revealing fear, suspicion, resistance to change. Dawsonville, with its 4,000 residents, moonshine lore, NASCAR heritage, and self-reliance, simmered quietly until it spilled over. Hiro passed familiar faces, Mrs. Kimura tending her chrysanthemums, Mr. Lee loading feed into his truck, the Lions Club banner flapping near City Hall. They nodded, curiosity and concern in their eyes. This was the moonshine capital, cautious of outsiders, wary of change. Inside the community center, volunteers gathered, lilies from the farmers' market displayed with pride. Hiro offered coffee and smiles, but chatter softened when the mural was mentioned. At 9 a.m., Mayor Wei-chan entered with council members and elders. Hiro braced for a warning to stay quiet, but the mayor raised a hand. This community speaks its own truth, he said. We stand behind those who build, not tear down. Applause rippled. Hiro's heart fluttered, not for praise, but for the town's defense of unity and kindness. Jia slipped beside him, pen pausing, then falling to her notebook. He gave her a faint smile. The door opened, and the high school art teacher entered with students, their paint-stained fingers and shy smiles proof of effort. They unfurled a new mural design poster, a Michelola Falls tumbling down cliffs, racing silhouettes along Thunder Road, children under a rainbow reaching for Be the Helper. Truth outlives noise. The youth spoke with quiet force, wanting to show Dawsonville's true face, not the online caricature, but its rooted, caring present. Hiro joined the students to finalize plans, paint cans, brushes, safety cones. He passed jars of water, nodded encouragement. At noon, Lin and May appeared. May's eyes took in the work, then she reached for Hiro's hand without a word. You showed them how, she said. Hiro swallowed. A group of older residents arrived, retirees new to Dawsonville and lifelong locals. They offered apologies, small donations, or nods of reconciliation. In their faces, Hiro saw recognition older than forgiveness. The afternoon rolled on with painting. Wei helped apply butter yellow streaks around the rainbow. A grandmother birdwatched, her umbrella shielding her from the sun, watering can idle at her feet. By 5 p.m., the mural stood complete, bright, layered, alive. Not perfect, but honest. Jia snapped a photo. This is the story. Yes, Hiro replied. This is the story. That evening, townsfolk gathered at Glen Wallace Park, where families picnicked and bluegrass bands played under pines. They brought homemade mochi, jasmine tea, laughter. Hiro stood beside May and Lin as the sun dipped low, warming their faces. Mayor Chen cleared his throat. Let this be a reminder, in Dawsonville, rumors don't define us. Kindness does the talking. The crowd cheered. Hiro pressed the purple stone in his pocket, a quiet symbol of remembering. In this town's bones, its stories, fields, people, he'd found something worth staying for. He knew why he was home. The next morning, the calm broke. Hiro woke to his phone vibrating on the nightstand, the sun not yet cresting the hills. Groggy, he answered without checking. You need to see this, Gia's voice came, urgent. She sent a link. His heart sank. A grainy security video from the night the mural was defaced showed a hooded man with a spray paint can, edited to make it look like Hiro. The caption read, "The truth about Dawsonville's new savior, caught in the act." Thousands of shares, comments from strangers and, worryingly, local names Hiro recognized, people he'd shared coffee and laughter with. Within an hour, he was at Kim's Coffee and Books. The usual warmth was gone. Kim looked up, face pale. I know it's not true, she said quickly, as if reassuring herself. Hiro nodded. I'll fix it. Outside, Lin pulled up. May hopped out, but Hiro saw the tension in Lin's tight jaw. You've seen it, he said. I have, she replied. I also know that footage is garbage. May took his hand, whispering, I told the kids at school it's a lie. Hiro forced a smile. Thanks, kiddo. By noon, a crowd formed outside the community center, not a mob, but not friendly. Men in worn jeans, women with folded arms, clutching phones, murmuring doubt. They came to watch what Hiro would do. He stepped forward. I know what's out there. I've seen the video, and it's not me. Someone scoffed. Looks like you. Walks like you. Why would someone frame you? Another voice asked. Hiro hesitated. Because I left a world that doesn't forgive. The people I stood beside don't like it when someone walks away to build something real. The crowd murmured, doubt heavy. Lin stepped beside him. May and I were with him the night that mural was defaced, she said, voice steady. He brought us food, helped May with her science project. He wasn't painting walls. Jia stepped forward. I checked the footage metadata. It's been tampered with. Whoever posted it wanted you to believe it because they know Dawsonville listens to its own. Silence followed. Then Mr. Lee spoke. I don't know tech tricks, but I know that kid. He nodded at May. She wouldn't follow a liar, and I trust her judgment more than any video. Chuckles broke out. Tension loosened. May beamed. That evening, Hiro collapsed onto Lin's porch, the day's weight in his bones. The attacks weren't stopping, they were escalating. Whoever wanted him gone wasn't playing games. He turned the purple stone in his fingers. You still with me? He asked quietly. The door creaked. Lin stepped out with 2 cups of tea. Thought you could use something warm, she said. Thanks. He looked out at the darkening street. You think it's going to stop? No, she said honestly. But you're stronger than what's coming. I wasn't before. You are now. They sat in the quiet. Not everything was fixed, but something had shifted. Truth doesn't need a megaphone, it needs time, and Hiro was done running out of that. Dawn's light filtered through the pines, drawing shadows across Dawsonville's hills. Hiro woke to a quiet stir, a collective breath between the town and him. The prior day's confrontation had shaken something loose, but it hadn't broken him. He sipped lukewarm coffee in his truck by the community center before heading inside, where volunteers were arranging materials for the week's next project. Reopening the rundown library wing, which had sat closed for years, was the next project. At 9 a.m., Mayor Wei Chen arrived, clipboard in hand, looking more determined than Hiro had ever seen him. That video attack, some think it's a final blow, the mayor said, voice low. Hiro nodded. Maybe, but blame isn't the opposite of trust. The mayor gave him a look. I'm ready to fight for the truth, for this town. Word spread fast in Dawsonville. By mid-morning, locals trickled in, librarians dusting shelves, task force volunteers making fresh signage, even the cashier from the grocery store. They brought tools, questions, and their presents. Hiro found Lynn at the sorting table, stacks of books behind her. She handed him a chipped mug full of pencils. "We're building something stronger," she said. "One trust brick at a time." He smiled. "That's the best kind." Kids from the middle school arrived next, part of the One Dawson Youth Club, their t-shirts bowled across their chests. May waved from the edge of the room, giving Hiro a thumbs up. He met her gaze, nodding back. By lunchtime, the library wing looked different, windows repaired, shelves restocked, reading nooks arranged with cozy throws. The mural's colors bled inside through open doors. Jiachin appeared, camera in hand, eyes softer. "You're making this real," she said. Hiro leaned against a table. "I used to think delivering a quarterly report mattered. Turns out, words in empty rooms don't change hearts." Jia placed her notebook down. "You're breathing life into places people forgot existed." Mid-afternoon, a rallying voice echoed through the open doors. Mr. Lee, who'd worked construction before retirement, held a stack of donation cards. "We got enough to keep the lights on and hire a part-time assistant librarian." A cheer erupted. Others stepped forward, parents offering tutoring, veterans offering evening security, retirees offering weekly story hours with grandchildren. Hiro's throat tightened, the weight of everything he'd walked away from melting in this moment of authenticity. Mayor Chin cleared his throat. "We're dedicating this wing tomorrow. It'll be called the Helper's Corner, in honor of someone who reminded us why this matters." Hiro swallowed hard, heart blazing. He looked at the faces, hands rough from work, eyes warm with renewed hope. That evening, Hiro stood under the towering pines by the community center. The breeze carried the scent of cedar, the promise of coming rain. He pressed the purple stone in his pocket. Lynn joined him silently. After a moment, she said, "They believe now." Hiro nodded. "They see now." She met his gaze. "That's all any of us ever want." He thought of Dawsonville's 4,000 residents, overwhelmingly white and traditional, and how his presence, his Asian heritage, his past, had been striking, challenging. But now, the fabric of trust was being rewoven, strengthened by action over assumption. Fireflies flickered at the edge of the darkening sky, tiny sparks, nearly invisible but unmistakable. Hiro pocketed the stone and inhaled deeply. He wasn't rebuilding an empire, he was helping rebuild a community, quiet and steady as the turning of seasons. The early afternoon sun filtered through tall pines, casting mottled shadows over the newly revived library wing. Families, teachers, town elders, and volunteers gathered in the courtyard. Folding chairs sat in neat rows, a wooden podium draped with a homemade banner, the Helper's Corner, dedicated today. Hiro stood near the back, hands in his pockets, watching the crowd settle. May sat beside Lynn in the front row, legs swinging, excitement lighting her face as a black Asian girl who'd sparked it all. Hiro's heart swelled. Mayor Chin stepped to the microphone, his voice carrying in the hush. "Thank you for coming. Today, we dedicate this space to something bigger than bricks and books, kindness, action, the spirit of helper in us all. It's called the Helper's Corner." He turned to Hiro, who offered a small nod. "We had quiet help, invisible help. But none of it would have mattered if Dawsonville hadn't shown up. Someone reminded us what that looks like." Hiro stepped forward, clearing his throat, scanning the faces, parents with toddlers, seniors with canes, teens in school uniforms, strangers turned friends. May's nervous smile steadied him. "Thank you," he began softly. "I came here not expecting a monument. I came because a little girl handed me $10 when my card failed. That fed my hunger and a part of my soul I didn't realize was starving." Murmurs of recognition rippled through the crowd. "I've chased headlines, applause, bottom lines," he said. "But none of that changed me. Fixing playgrounds, reopening libraries, painting murals, that's changed me. You have. This corner isn't about me. It's about the truth that helping matters." He glanced at the inscription on the building, "Be the helper. Truth always outlives the noise." May's stone, woven into the walls. "I want kids to come here," he continued, "not just to read, but to remember community is built from small acts of care. No one's too powerful to ask for help, and no kindness is too small to change a life." Applause broke out, soft, then warm. Hiro stepped back. May ran up, throwing her arms around him in a fierce hug. "I helped build," she whispered into his coat. "No," Hiro corrected gently. "You helped me build something real." Lynn handed him a tissue and a proud smile. As the crowd dispersed, volunteers guided guests inside to explore fresh shelves, cozy nooks with donated books, new reading lamps, storyboards on cork strips, and a bright corner painted soft yellow labeled Kids Nook. Jia found him by the entrance, notebook empty, satisfaction in her eyes. You told it, she said. Hiro nodded. Let's hope people listen. By evening, the courtyard had emptied, chairs folded and stored, the banner carefully tucked away. Hiro remained seated on the wooden bench under the pines, now shaded and hushed. Mei sat beside him, yawning. She's worn out, Lin whispered as she joined them. We'll head home soon. Okay, Hiro said, resting his arm lightly across Mei's shoulders. She leaned into him. The three sat in companionable silence, broken only by the rustle of pine needles and a distant train's horn. Hiro thought of how 3 weeks ago he'd felt invisible. Now he felt connected, rooted. Lin looked at him. You ever regret coming back? Hiro drew the purple stone from his pocket, rolling it in his fingertips. I thought I did once. He looked at her, then at Mei, then at the library glowing softly behind them. But not anymore. Lin squeezed his hand. Night settled in. Hiro stood, brushing off his jeans, tucking the stone back into his pocket. Let's go home, he said gently. Mei hopped up, sleepy, rubbing her eyes. Good night, Mr. Hiro. Good night, Mei, he said, catching her. Sleep well. As they walked away, Hiro glanced at the sign, the helper's corner. The lights inside cast a gentle glow onto the courtyard. He exhaled, a weight lifted. Doubt might return, new challenges might arise, the man in the suit might reappear. But here, in this place's current, he'd found something worth defending, a truth made of hands, hearts, and bookshelves. In that, he'd found himself. When the cicadas' choir rose in the warm night air, he realized this was home, an imperfect, healing, human home. Morning light filtered through the pines beyond the helper's corner, greeting Dawsonville with a golden hush. Hiro stepped into the cobbled square at the heart of downtown, historic red brick buildings encircling the old Dawson County Courthouse, standing since 1858, restored yet dignified in its age, whispering of every soul who'd raced down Thunder Road, from moonshine runners to NASCAR legends. He passed the Georgia Racing Hall of Fame, its siren silent early in the day, waiting for the next champion. Dreamy storefronts, some shuttered, others newly painted, stood as silent promises. Protecting our history and providing for the future, the city motto read on a pamphlet Hiro recalled spotting. He paused to touch the cool bricks of the old jail, built in 1881, its thick walls speaking of confinement and community truths. Every structure carried stories, of Cherokee heritage, miners chasing gold in 1829, wild distilleries, and daring races that birthed NASCAR. Hiro inhaled deeply, feeling the pulse of generations. What he'd built at the library wasn't a detour, it was part of Dawsonville's current. Legacy didn't silence change, it embraced it. Inside the helper's corner, the bright yellow kids' nook welcomed him. Rows of books stood like patient friends. A display honored local history, a photo of Raymond Parks and Red Voigt beside vintage images of racing beginnings, a plaque recounting the town's moonshine and NASCAR roots. Jia stood there, camera off, notebook closed, her expression profound. You're building more than community, she said quietly. You're blending past and present. This place feels like home. Hiro nodded. We're not erasing history. We're building on it. At the weekly farmers market, Hiro and Lin wandered among stands selling fresh mochi, local honey, homemade preserves, and crafts, entrepreneurship and tradition side by side, like mothers teaching children to knead rice dough beside retirees sharing stories of old times. At Mrs. Endo's stand, Hiro chatted about the early fall. She offered a free sample of peach jam. Spreading it on bread, he recognized this Appalachian inheritance thrived in quiet acts of renewal and resilience. Mei chased fireflies near the fountain, collecting fallen petals to press between wax paper, muttering poetry only a child could compose. On the courthouse steps, Mayor Weichen arrived with flyers and maps for a series of heritage walks celebrating the old jail, the Gilland House on Thunder Road, Amicalola Falls, and trails echoing Cherokee voices. Would you speak at the kickoff event? He asked Hiro, tone hopeful. Hiro considered the brick facade, silent witnesses to ancestral dreams, moonshine runners, and community builders. I'd be honored, he said. They climbed the courthouse steps together, townsfolk gathering. At the podium, Hiro faced teachers, mothers, shopkeepers, children clutching homemade signs reading truth and roots and helping his heritage. He spoke from the heart. History isn't a monument, it's living. It's what we do when we honor what came before and dare to make something new. Dawsonville's legacy runs deep, from gold prospectors to moonshine roads to racetracks and community halls. Now we're adding pages to that story, not with speed or fame, but with empathy, renewal, and shared belief. They cheered. Mei jumped up beside Lin, eyes bright. The heritage walks began, small groups trailing Hiro, Jia, and the mayor, pointing out the courthouse cornerstone laid in 1858, the jail's iron bars holding hope of reform, the Gilland House's moonshine still is testament to defiance and reinvention, the Appalachian trails tying native roots to future wanderers. Hero led gently, sharing learned stories, listening as elders added details and children questioned with wonder. Each footprint affirmed, anyone could root themselves here, authentically, unafraid. At day's close, under gathering dusk, fireworks of gratitude glowed in timid smiles and nods. Hero returned to the bench by the helper's corner, the purple stone warm in his pocket. Lynn and May joined him, watching the courthouse clock tower ring, old and faithful, marking time. It reminded Dawsonville that history isn't just memory, it's what we build with hands, hearts, and shared humanity. An early spring breeze brushed through Dawsonville, carrying the scent of pine sap and fresh rain across the courthouse square. Hero stood in the quiet morning light, gazing at the historic Dawson County Courthouse, its red brick facade steady since 1858, a silent witness to generations of community life. He thought of everything since May, a black Asian girl, handed him that crumpled $10 bill, redemption, defamation, mutual rebuilding, and now a deeper turning, integrating who he'd been with where he chose to stand, rooted in shared heritage and trust. Lynn and May joined him. Hero slipped the purple stone into his pocket like a promise. Lynn looked toward the Gilland House, visible from the square, built in 1929 in craftsman style, complete with a secret attic used for moonshine during Prohibition. This house, she said quietly, reminds us Dawsonville's always been about survival, reinvention, people adapting, hiding when they had to, but always building families, communities, futures. Hero nodded. Moonshiners laid hidden tunnels. Now we're building open spaces like the Helper's Corner, spaces for learning, connection, not secrecy. May tugged his hand. Can I tell the tour group about that secret attic? He gave a wry smile. That might be too wild even for this town. Laughter rang softly between them. Later, Hero and Jia stood before a tentative group for a heritage and hope walking tour, connecting Dawsonville's complicated history, Prohibition runners, stock car beginnings, overlooked communities, with its new chapter of kindness. With steady calm, Hero spoke. This courthouse has watched years pass, wars won and lost, laws written and broken. The Gilland House, built as a home, once sheltered a secret still. These walls teach us history isn't always neat or righteous. It's human. Jia added, today, it's an invitation to learn from the past and build something generous, transparent. The group wandered past the Georgia Racing Hall of Fame, echoes of throttle and cheer from moonshine runners turned NASCAR pioneers. At each stop, Hero invited commentary. An older woman recalled racing scars, a young teacher spoke of local pride, a guest from out of state nodded, feeling the weight of stories in these streets. By afternoon, they returned to the Helper's Corner. Inside, children clustered in reading nooks while parents paged through town archives and restored photos. The mural, Be the Helper, gazed over everything, bright, alive. White-collar and blue-collar families mingled with multi-generational visitors, farmers, teachers, retirees, bound by a shared narrative that now included Hero's redemption. Mayor Wachen approached. This tour changed me today. People feel anchored. Hero placed a hand on his shoulder. Sometimes healing isn't erasing the past, it's acknowledging it and building something that honors who we were and who we want to be. That evening, under lanterns strung across the courtyard, the town held a small celebration, matcha with local jam, jasmine tea, acoustic guitar from a local singer. Humble, warm, unscripted. May danced barefoot on the grass. Lynn watched Hero, pride in her features. He nibbled matcha, holding the purple stone, knowing his gratitude for roots, community, and second chances would guide him forward. He saw faces, those who judged, doubted, and chose to stay, rebuild, trust again. In them, he found his real home. Dawsonville woke beneath a sky brushed pale by early spring. Dew clung to the grass in front of the Helper's Corner, turning the courtyard into a small sea of light. Hero stood barefoot on the stone threshold, the purple stone a reminder that some things remain steady even when the future feels uncertain. It was Sunday, a day for reflection, not celebration. Or so he'd hoped. Lynn found him on the front steps, lost in thought. You look like you're carrying a storm, she said, handing him 2 paper cups of hot coffee. He took one, warming his hands. The man in the suit was here yesterday, Kenji Mori. Dropped by Kim's, asked about me. I didn't let him see me, but he's still out there, offering a lifeline to a world I'm not sure I want. Lynn sat beside him. You've changed. I have. He looked toward the pines. But what if that world hasn't? What if they only want me when I'm useful, and when I'm not, they discard my memory? Then let them call, she said. Doesn't mean you answer. He took a slow breath. May said something like that the other day. She's got sense. They sat in silence. May bounded across the courtyard, curiosity in her eyes. What are you two talking about? Big person stuff, Hiro said, smiling gently. Want to help me sweep the porch? May nodded eagerly, grabbing a whisk broom. As she swept, a rhythm emerged, soft brush against stone, warm coffee scent, the world pausing around them. Jia appeared, notebook in hand but unprompted. I've got the story where you don't have to decide today, she said softly. It's okay if you never go back. Hiro met her gaze, grateful. Thank you. Jia nodded, then left, no cameras, no flash, just trust. By afternoon, the town's rhythm returned. Kim's cafe filled with locals, a neighbor dropped by with fresh eggs, children chased fireflies. The mural, Truth Always Outlives the Noise, glowed in afternoon gold. Hiro walked to it, fingers tracing the letters. He thought of Kenji's card burning in Lin's sink, its ashes freeing him. The choice was clearer. That evening, under a purple dusk, Hiro and Lin stood under the pines. He held the stone, now worn smooth. I'm not going back, he said softly. Lin looked at him steadily. Good. I know. He exhaled, his attention shifting behind them as May called to chase more fireflies. The past, the tech empire, the betrayals, the headlines, was not forgotten. But Eden had been found in simple things, a library, a playground, a stone. And in choosing to stay, as Hiro slipped the stone into May's small hand and joined her laughter under the dangling pines, he knew Dawsonville had offered him something far greater than fame. It had offered him a place to belong. Sunlight filtered through the high pines at dawn, illuminating the courtyard of the Helper's Corner with a forest green glow. Hiro stepped outside, greeted by the sound of pages turning, a steady hum of life. The library wing was back open, its entrance framed with wildflowers someone had planted overnight, an unexpected gift carrying both gratitude and hope. Lin approached, carrying a tray of jasmine tea and red bean pastries freshly baked for volunteer readers hosting early morning story time. They say kids are learning to help as they read, she said softly, placing the tray. Maybe the helper spirit spreads quietly, Hiro said, taking a pastry. Like this courtyard, unnoticed until something blooms. May appeared from between the shelves, holding a stack of picture books. Mr. Hiro, may I read to the toddlers today? She asked, proud and confident. Hiro smiled down at her. There's no better helper than someone teaching through stories. Moments later, he sat in the reading nook, watching May's voice brighten the room as children gathered around her, ears alert, smiles wide, hearts leaning in. He realized then that legacy isn't built with speeches or empires. It's woven quietly in moments like these. Later, volunteers arrived with tools to extend the little garden beds by the entrance. Hiro joined them, digging deep into the soil, planting marigolds and zinnias. Lin handed him a watering can, and together they tended to life growing right beneath their fingertips. Jia wandered over, camera off, notebook in her hand. She didn't ask questions today. She simply offered a knowing nod. No words, just recognition. Some stories needed living, not telling. By afternoon, the town's weekly farmers' market had reopened in full swing near the courthouse square. Hiro walked among tents displaying fresh produce, handmade quilts, vintage photographs of Dawsonville's racing past, and jars of peach preserve scented with sunshine. People greeted him, some with old questions, some simply with smiles of appreciation. No headline drama today, just rooted connection. At the center of the market, a small table displayed handmade signs reading helper classes, offering things like woodworking lessons, art journals, and even kindness circles for teens, initiatives born from community discussion and funded through contributions. Hiro paused beside the table, feeling the weight of how small ideas become movements. Just then, Wei, the boy from the playground, ran up, holding a sketch of the restored mural. He'd added new symbols, an open book, a rising sun, and a purple stone tucked into the corner. You drew this? Hiro asked, kneeling beside him. Yeah, it's our story, right? Wei said quietly. Hiro pressed his hand to the boy's shoulder. The best story, and you helped write it. That evening, under the gentle glow of stringed lanterns at the library courtyard, town members gathered for a helper harvest, a modest shared dinner of stir-fried rice, cornbread, mango pudding, and jasmine tea. Conversation flowed easily, layered with laughter and gratitude. Mayor Weichen raised his glass of iced tea. Here's to Dawsonville, and to those who hungered for something better than oblivion or empire. We found it right here in books, gardens, playgrounds, and trust. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the group. Hiro looked around at Lin, at May, at neighbors by his side. When applause ended, May climbed onto a chair and declared, "Can we help again tomorrow?" Hiro laughed, moved by her boundless energy. Absolutely. Later still, as the night deepened and guests drifted home, Hiro lingered by the mural's light. He pressed the purple stone in his pocket, feeling its smoothness, shared warmth, held promise. He thought of the suit-wearing man far away. The choice not to answer the door had opened him to something infinite, yet immense, a quiet legacy built so gently it almost didn't announce itself. Yet forged with more meaning than any empire. He looked up at the pines, silent sentinels of change and constancy. Here at last was a story worth telling, not because it clamored for attention, but because it whispered and people listened. The legacy of a helper isn't measured in wealth or fame. It's found in roots set down, hands held out, and the quiet turning of hearts. Dawsonville had embraced him not as a provider, but as a partner, a neighbor, a friend, and the silence between those titles was, in its way, the loudest truth. Spring had settled into Dawsonville with quiet certainty. The air smelled of flowering dogwood and dew-softened pine needles. The Helper's Corner bathed in gentle morning light, its open doors welcoming guests once more. School was winding down, and the world outside still seemed as though it had learned something enduring about kindness. Hero stepped out onto the porch, cup of jasmine tea in hand, watching the subtle hum of everyday life. The crop of marigolds and zinnias around the entrance nodded in the breeze, small symbols of a flourishing community. Not long after, Lynn emerged with May. The girl carried a paper plate of red bean turnover left over from Saturday's father-daughter pancake breakfast at the downtown pavilion, where laughter had danced over syrupy pancakes and chatter about the upcoming Mountain Moonshine Festival. The town's calendar was filling again: Main Street concert nights, food truck Fridays, the Amicalola Regional Farmers Market every Saturday. Hero offered the plate to Lynn, who smiled and accepted. "Morning," she said softly. "Looks like today's planning committee is meeting at the hall." He glanced at May. "And what about you?" "May I help?" she asked, bright-eyed. He chuckled. "Already starting." They walked together toward the historic town hall, where volunteers were gathered to plan a new seasonal tradition, a helper trail connecting the library, the community center, and local parks, highlighting both natural beauty like the trailheads of Etowah River Park and community landmarks like the Georgia Racing Hall of Fame and the courthouse. Inside, Jia snapped photos quietly, notebook tucked away. Her presence now as integrated into the town's rhythms as the church bells or the Saturday market stall. Mayor Chen addressed the group. "We've restored places," he said. An early spring breeze brushed through Dawsonville, carrying the scent of pine sap and fresh rain across the courthouse square. Hero stood in the quiet morning light, gazing at the historic Dawson County Courthouse, its red brick facade steady since 1858, a witness to generations of community life. He thought of everything since May, a black Asian girl, handed him that crumpled $10 bill, redemption, defamation, rebuilding, and now a deeper integration of who he'd been with where he stood, rooted in shared heritage and trust. Lynn and May joined him. Hero slipped the purple stone into his pocket like a promise. Lynn looked toward the Gilland house, built in 1929 in craftsman style, its secret attic used for moonshine during Prohibition. "This house," she said quietly, "shows Dawsonville's always been about survival, reinvention, people adapting, hiding when needed, but building families, communities, futures." Hero nodded. "Moonshiners laid hidden tunnels. Now we're building open spaces like the Helper's Corner, for learning, connection, not secrecy." May tugged his hand. "Can I tell the tour group about that secret attic?" He gave a wry smile. "That might be too wild even for this town." Laughter rang softly. Later, Hero and Jia stood before a group for a heritage and hope walking tour, connecting Dawsonville's history, Prohibition runners, stock car beginnings, overlooked communities, with its new chapter of kindness. Hero spoke calmly. "This courthouse has seen wars won and lost, laws written and broken. The Gilland House, a home, once hid a still. These walls teach us history isn't always neat, it's human." Jia added, "Today, it's an invitation to learn from the past and build something generous, transparent." The group passed the Georgia Racing Hall of Fame, echoes of moonshine runners turned NASCAR pioneers. Hero invited commentary, an elder recalled racing scars, a teacher spoke of local pride, an out-of-state guest nodded at the street stories. By afternoon, they returned to the Helper's Corner. Children clustered in reading nooks, parents paged through archives, the mural, "Be the Helper," bright and alive. Farmers, teachers, retirees mingled, bound by a narrative including Hero's redemption. Mayor Chen approached. This tour anchored people. Hero placed a hand on his shoulder. "Healing isn't erasing the past, it's building something that honors who we were and who we want to be." That evening, under lanterns in the courtyard, the town held a celebration, machi with local jam, jasmine tea, acoustic guitar. May danced barefoot on the grass. Lynn watched Hero, pride in her eyes. He nibbled machi, holding the purple stone, grateful for roots and second chances. Faces of those who judged, doubted, and stayed surrounded him, his real home. Dawn brushed Dawsonville pale. Du clung to grass at the helper's corner, a sea of light. Hero stood barefoot on the stone threshold, the purple stone steadying him. It was Sunday, a day for reflection. Lin found him on the steps. "You look like you're carrying a storm," she said, handing him 2 cups of hot coffee. He took one. "Kenji Mori was here yesterday, asking about me at Kim's. I didn't let him see me, but he's offering a lifeline to a world I don't want." "You've changed," Lin said. "I have. But what if that world hasn't? What if they only want me when I'm useful, then discard me? Let them call. You don't have to answer." Hero smiled. May said something like that. She's got sense. May bounded over. "What are you talking about?" "Big person stuff," Hero said. "Want to help sweep the porch?" She grabbed a whisk broom, sweeping in rhythm, soft brush against stone, coffee scent, the world pausing. Jia appeared, notebook unprompted. "You don't have to decide today," she said. "It's okay if you never go back." Hero met her gaze. "Thank you." By afternoon, the town hummed, Kim's cafe filled, a neighbor dropped off eggs, children chased fireflies. The mural, "Truth always outlives the noise," glowed. Hero traced its letters, recalling Kenji's card burning in Lin's sink. The choice was clear. Evening brought purple dusk. Hero and Lin stood under pines, the stone worn smooth. "I'm not going back," he said. Lin nodded. "Good." He exhaled, attention lifting behind them. May called to chase more fireflies. The past, the tech empire, betrayals, headlines, was not forgotten. But Eden had been found in simple things, a library, a playground, a stone. In choosing to stay, as Hero slipped the stone into May's small hand and joined her laughter under dangling pines, he knew Dawsonville had offered something greater than fame. It had offered him a place to belong. Sunlight filtered through high pines at dawn, illuminating the helper's corner courtyard with a forest green glow. Hero stepped outside, greeted by pages turning, a steady hum of life. The library wing was open, its entrance framed with wildflowers planted overnight, an unexpected gift carrying gratitude and hope. Lin approached with a tray of coffee and red bean mochi for volunteer readers hosting story time. "Kids are learning to help as they read," she said softly, placing the tray. "Maybe the helper spirit spreads quietly," Hero said, taking a mochi. "Like this courtyard, unnoticed until something blooms." May appeared from between shelves, holding picture books. "Mr. Hero, can I read to the toddlers today?" Hero smiled down at her. No better helper than someone teaching through stories. Moments later, he sat in the reading nook, watching May's voice brighten the room, children gathered, ears alert, smiles wide, hearts leaning in. He realized legacy isn't built with speeches or empires, it's woven quietly in moments like these. Volunteers arrived to extend garden beds by the entrance. Hero joined, digging into soil, planting marigolds and zinnias. Lin handed him a watering can, and they tended life growing beneath their fingertips. Jia wandered over, camera off, notebook in hand. She didn't ask questions, just offered a knowing nod. No words, just recognition. Some stories needed living, not telling. By afternoon, the farmers' market reopened near the courthouse square. Hero walked among tents, fresh produce, handmade quilts, vintage photos of Dawsonville's racing past, jars of peach preserve scented with sunshine. People greeted him, some with old questions, some with smiles of appreciation. No headline drama, just rooted connection. A table displayed handmade signs for helper classes, woodworking, art journals, kindness circles for teens, born from community discussion, funded by contributions. Hero paused, feeling how small ideas become movements. Just then, Wei ran up, holding a sketch of the restored mural. He'd added symbols, an open book, a rising sun, a purple stone tucked in the corner. "You drew this?" Hero asked, kneeling beside him. "Yeah, it's our story, right?" Wei said quietly. Hero pressed his hand to the boy's shoulder. "The best story, and you helped write it." That evening, under lanterns at the library courtyard, townsfolk gathered for a helper harvest, casseroles, cornbread, red bean mochi, jasmine tea. Conversation flowed with laughter and gratitude. Mayor Chen raised his glass. "To Dawsonville, and those who hungered for something better than oblivion or empire. We found it in books, gardens, playgrounds, trust." Murmurs of agreement rippled. Hero looked around at Lin, May, neighbors by his side. When applause ended, May climbed onto a chair and declared, "Can we help again tomorrow?" Hero laughed, moved by her boundless energy. "Absolutely." Later, as night deepened and guests drifted home, Hero lingered by the mural's light. He pressed the purple stone, feeling its smoothness, shared warmth, held promise. He thought of the suit-wearing man far away. The choice not to answer had opened something immense, a quiet legacy forged gently, with more meaning than any empire. He looked up at the pines, silent sentinels of change and constancy. Here was a story worth telling, not because it clamored for attention, but because it whispered, and people listened. The legacy of a helper isn't measured in wealth or fame, it's found in roots set down, hands held out, the quiet turning of hearts. Dawsonville had embraced him not as a provider, but as a partner, neighbor, friend, and the silence between those titles was the loudest truth. Spring settled into Dawsonville with certainty, the air smelling of flowering dogwood and dew-softened pine needles. The Helper's Corner bathed in gentle morning light, its open doors welcoming guests. School was winding down, and the world seemed to have learned something enduring about kindness. Hero stepped onto the porch, cup of jasmine tea in hand, watching the subtle hum of everyday life. The crops of marigolds and zinnias around the entrance nodded in the breeze, small symbols of a flourishing community. Not long after, Lynn emerged with May. The girl carried a paper plate of peach turnover left over from Saturday's father-daughter pancake breakfast at the downtown pavilion, where laughter had danced over syrupy pancakes and chatter about the upcoming Mountain Moonshine Festival. The town's calendar was filling again, Main Street concert nights, food truck Fridays, the Amicalola Regional Farmers Market every Saturday. Hero offered the plate to Lynn, who smiled and accepted. "Morning," she said softly. "Today's planning committee is meeting at the hall." He glanced at May. "And what about you? May I help?" she asked, bright-eyed. He chuckled. "Already starting." They walked together toward the historic town hall where volunteers were gathered to plan a new seasonal tradition, a helper trail connecting the library, the community center, and local parks, highlighting both natural beauty like the trailheads of Stiles Park and community landmarks like the Georgia Racing Hall of Fame and the courthouse. Inside, Gia snapped photos quietly, notebook tucked away. Her presence now as integrated into the town's rhythms as the church bells or the Saturday market stalls. Mayor Chen addressed the group. "We've restored places," he said. "Now we build connections to each other and to the history and beauty of this county. Amicalola Falls trails, Main Street, people should hike, bike, learn, not just pass through." Hero stood and spoke. "Not every mark we leave is visible, but every marked trail reminds us that direction means something. We want this to show Dawsonville is rooted. Here's where we come together, step by step." Later, the group walked outside toward the courthouse square. Disc golf baskets dotted the park, a small skate area, and courts for pickleball where teenagers practiced shots amid friendly shouts. Hero noticed how people passed each other, greeting, nodding, sometimes stopping to share ambitions, worries, small triumphs. During the Amicalola Regional Farmers Market, Hero helped May set up a lemonade stand. They sold lemonades under the shade of pines, and neighbors dropped by, some offering tips, some just kind words. Beneath the cheerful clink of cups, Hero felt something ripen, trust grounded in shared minutes. That evening, Hero and Lynn strolled through the town square lit by lanterns. They passed the Georgia Racing Hall of Fame, its simulators humming softly as tourists tried virtual races. The courthouse shone silently, witness to decades of small-town life and now to something renewed. He reached down and pulled the purple stone from his pocket, warm with touch. Lynn smiled gently. "Seasons change." Hero nodded. "They teach us that growth is quiet, and sometimes it waits until it can't be stopped." At home, they tucked May in. She drifted to sleep, hugging her embroidered helper pillow. Hero closed the door behind her and stepped onto the porch to breathe deep. The night settled around the library wing, windows dark but bright in memory of daytime laughter. A soft wind whispered through the pines. He pressed his hand to the stone. No hurry to be someone else again. Here, between community events, shared laughter, and trails, both physical and personal, he had learned the truest kind of legacy, forged not in gilded halls, but in quiet seasons of service, and that legacy would grow, one gentle trail at a time. The first light of summer dawned softly over Dawsonville, gilding the pines and casting long shadows across the Helper's Corner courtyard. A few early risers, caretakers, gardeners, librarians, sat on the porch in quiet companionship. Hero joined them, coffee in hand, welcomed by familiar nods and the gentle creak of rocking chairs that felt like permission to belong. Today was no ordinary day. It was the 10th anniversary of a moment no one in town would forget, a crumpled $10 bill, a girl's outstretched hand, and the beginning of something unexpectedly lasting. May stirred awake nearby in the apartment above the library wing, the old building humming with potential and memory. Hero glanced down at the purple stone in his palm, warmed by his grip. It felt both simple and sacred. By mid-morning, families, neighbors, and longtime residents gathered outside the library. A modest banner read, 10 years of helping, a celebration of community, legacy, and truth. The boardwalk was lined with handmade signs, be the helper. Truth outlives noise. Kindness grows here, woven into the town's visual soul. Lin stood beside Hiro, radiant and grounded. May arrived, clutching a drawing she'd made of that first moment, their hands connected by that $10 bill, now historic. It was framed and set on an easel near the porch. Mayerchan stepped up, ushering the crowd to hush. 10 years ago today, he said, voice steady, Hiro Tanaka came into our town anonymously, and a girl taught him something more valuable than money. Today, we celebrate what has grown from that moment, not just a story, but a home. People listened, smiles shining, some misting behind glasses. Hiro stood, his heart thrumming with memory and gratitude. I came here hoping to disappear, he began. But this town saw me. A young girl showed me a path back to myself. He looked at May. She stood tall, eyes bright. He folded in his heart the echoes of that day. In the years since, the library wing has become a center of learning and inclusion, tutoring programs, heritage archives, evening story sessions with local elders, summer book clubs run by teens who grew up here. The playground stands vibrant with murals telling stories of the land, the people, the journeys that shaped them. The Helper Trail now loops through woods, past historic sites, and community art pieces painted by school children, uniting past and present in motion. Hiro said, I used to measure worth by numbers and headlines. Here, I've learned value lives in roots, not reach. I may have walked in under a headline, but I stayed for roots, friendships, purpose. The applause rose, tender, filled with recognition. During the informal reception after the speech, Hiro circulated among neighbors, some from the start, others met along the way. He talked quietly with Mrs. Sato about pruning bonsai, shared a laugh at the vintage photograph exhibit with retired teachers, and hugged the high school art teacher who'd started the kids' mural club. Jiachin arrived, carrying her camera, not for a story now, but to capture memory. She nodded at him quietly. The final photo she would ever take of his journey looked more like belonging than breaking. At sunset, people drifted away under a twilight sky lit with fireflies. Hiro lingered, strolling the courtyard as stars emerged. The stone in his pocket pulsed with meaning, no longer just a reminder, but a testament. Under the soft glow of lantern light, May appeared. She climbed onto the porch, pulling her father by the hand. We changed the drawing, May whispered, holding the framed picture. It now included the mural in the background, the library, and the silhouette of a man kneeling beside a girl, a visual time travel across 10 years. Hiro knelt beside her, brushing a finger over her hair. You changed me, he whispered back. Lin joined quietly, and the three sat together, holding the frame, watching the lanterns swing above. Hiro thought of Kenji Mori's invitation to return to a world of recognition and influence, declined without a second thought. What mattered wasn't reclaiming a lost place in headlines but building a steady place in hearts. Crickets sang, pines whispered, the library glowed behind them, alive with memory and promise. In the end, Hiro realized home isn't just a place, it's a story woven quietly between moments of trust, acts of kindness, and the courage to stay when you know you belong. Dawsonville had given him that story in abundance. He pressed May's hand gently, looking at the horizon where dawn would rise again. After 10 years, hope wasn't new, it was homegrown. The story teaches that true legacy isn't built through fame or wealth but through kindness, connection, and quiet acts of service. It reminds us that even the smallest gestures, like a black Asian girl offering help, can ripple into profound change. When we choose community over ego and truth over image, we create something lasting. In a world that often values noise, this story champions the quiet strength of belonging, humility, and doing good without needing recognition.